Please enjoy this uninterrupted conversation as part of our academic integrity series brought to you by Integrity for Education. Integrity for Education supports your institution by unlocking the full potential of digitalization through the right mix of software solutions, strategic consulting, and sustainable implementation of state of the art technologies. Learn more at integrityforeducation.de. That's integrity, the number 4, education.de. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to ed up on the Ed Up Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the Ed Up Experience, and we are back on another awesome episode of our academic integrity podcast series, sponsored by Integrity for Education. Speaking of Integrity for Education, I have with me the co-host who's live from Germany. He is Thomas Fetcher. He's the CEO at Integrity for Education. Tommy, how you doing today?
Hey, Elvin, I'm doing good. Hi, Judd. Good meeting with you and hoping for a fun conversation about academic integrity today.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it and introduce our guest, ladies and gentlemen. He is Judson Curry, and he is Dean of Liberal Arts and Sciences at Kishwaukee College. Judd, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks, Elvin. Tom, it's great to be here with you. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're glad you're here. And we like to get right into it, Judd. So tell us all about what you do and how you do it.
All right. So I'm one of a couple of deans here at Kishwaukee College in the Office of Instruction. Kishwaukee College is a small community college in northern Illinois, in the U.S. And we serve students from a wide range of backgrounds. We're in a fairly rural area, so we have students who come from very small towns, rural backgrounds, but we're also close, not far from the Chicago metro area. So we have students coming in from there as well. Our enrollment is about 3,700 students. And that's divided up between students who are pursuing transfer degrees. They want to get an Associate of Arts or Associate of Science and move on to a 4-year institution. And then we also have students who are pursuing career tech degrees and certifications. And those are folks who are likely to end up going from their work here at Kishwaukee College right into the workforce, whether that's in health areas or manufacturing, construction, diesel, welding, all of those different areas. And I'm dean over our liberal arts and sciences. So I'm basically dean over the transfer areas. So all the different departments that serve those transfer students who are getting their general education courses, who are getting started maybe on a couple of their major area courses if they know what they want to pursue, and then planning to transfer on from there.
Excellent. So before I pass it on to Tommy, I have a follow-up question for you. So how long have you been working there?
Yeah. I've been at Kishwaukee College for about 8 years, but I've been in higher education for about 28 years. Started at a different institution where I worked with non-traditional students, adult degree completion students, folks who were coming back after some gap of time to finish a bachelor's degree. I loved working with that non-traditional population, those adult returning students. I worked in that area for about 18 years, and then I was at a different institution as dean over adult and graduate studies there, and then moved over here to Kishwaukee College and learned the community college world, which is a little bit different, but it's been a great experience.
So real quick, so over the 8 years, tell us, I'm curious, what is it that keeps you going? What's the passion? What is it that lights you up? And what is the challenge? Which also, right, could light you up as well because you're trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
I think one of the things that keeps me going is that there's an endless range of stuff that I get involved with. I mean, every different department, whether, from working with the biology department to expand, for example, their anatomy and physiology program, working with the English department and the math department to try to come up with new ways to do developmental education better to help prepare students to be more successful. working with our education and early childhood education department to try to figure out how we get upskill workers in those professional areas. So every day it's something different. And I get to learn about all of these different departments, different fields, different professions, different subjects areas. And that's both exciting, but that's also the challenge, right? There's an infinite number of projects that we could be working in and never enough time to do them all. And so that's one of the big challenges, is that you see opportunities, you want to take advantage of them. You want to support, my goal is to support faculty so that the faculty can give students the best possible experience. But it's challenging to be able to keep all the balls in the air.
Yeah, totally. Over to you, Tommy.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds exciting. And I believe, so funny fact, you talk about the non-traditionalists. So I'm a contender of continuing education congresses the last 3-4 years. And this is like a hot topic over there as well. And I learned that 75% of student population at the moment is like those non-traditionalists, right? So it's not what you think it would be, right? So that's at least what I understood in visiting those conferences. Like, all right. Over to this academic integrity piece. So talking about like non-traditionalists, I believe there is more like more mature people, older people maybe, or people that are in jobs already. What do you think about like academic integrity or academic dishonesty, like the right opposite of it? Like in that group and that population of students, is there a difference you can see between like traditionalists versus the non-traditional students in a way, or is that the same?
Yeah, I mean, this is purely anecdotal, so this is not based on any sort of formal data collection. But my sense is that a lot of the challenges we run into with academic integrity often are with the more traditional aged students. So the students who are coming to us perhaps right out of high school. And my experience is that the older, the non-traditional, sort of post-traditional students, they tend to have a little bit more sense of their purpose in going back to school. And that purpose, then, their goal is that they really are focused on the learning and now this is, again, a vast generalization, but they tend to be less extrinsically motivated by the grades and more intrinsically motivated by their desire to learn, to master a field, to be successful in it. And so that intrinsic motivation makes them less likely to engage in behavior that might run counter to academic integrity. That's sort of my observation. I don't know if data would support that.
Prove that.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. So I don't know if you ever heard about a blog called The Cheat Sheet. So if you just read that, I'm very often read that. Elvin and I think we both know the person behind that blog, and so I think if you read that, you wouldn't believe that also adults in learning do cheat sometimes and try to really cut corners and do behave like versus academic integrity in a way. But I would share the same feeling. So a purpose, I think that is the central word here, right? So the purpose seems to be like what motivates you to really go along and study and improve your knowledge, what drives you, and maybe that's a thing.
I was actually at a dinner recently with 8 former college friends that I went to school with. And at some point the question came up, so how many of us cheated at some point in college?
Yeah.
And it was 100%. You know, I mean, and that's and then we had an interesting discussion about, well, what, how did you interpret cheating? What did you do? Well, how serious was it? What was but yeah, you're right. It's a universal kind of a challenge.
Yeah. That's what I thought. And so that would lead me to the question. So if there is cheating, or even if you work like with more non-traditional students, is cheating still going on, like more as a question? Or you see that? Is that a topic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say yes. I mean, that's one of the main points of conversation that I end up having frequently with faculty that I work with.
All right.
Is their observation that their frustration with how do I, as a faculty member, how do I either keep my students from being tempted to cheat, or catch them when they're cheating, or somehow um, prevent that from being possible. I mean, that's just it feels like that's a topic that comes up every day.
All right. And do you think it changed like over time, like since AI has entered the field of education, maybe? So that's a more rhetorical question, I know, but
Yeah.
do you see things changing and more rapid or more fast?
That's hard. That's hard to answer. I mean, it's always been with us, right? I mean, I think
Yeah.
as long as you've had formal schooling, you've had students who look for shortcuts. Um, I think it's certainly it's far easier
Mm.
to cheat now. I mean, I just think of, when I was in college, which was a few years ago, the idea of getting somebody else turning in a paper that you hadn't written, for example, um, that required a lot more work um, to carry out that particular plan than I think it does now. I think that the resources that are out there that market themselves to students just make it a lot easier. Does that mean that there's a lot more of it happening? Maybe. I mean, that would be a kind of a logical conclusion, I think. But I certainly, based on the conversations I've had with faculty, it feels like the last 5 or 6 years, it certainly is a greater something that faculty are more intensely attuned to and aware of. So, yeah, maybe.
Oh, yeah. And how do you tackle that, like in your organization? Is it technology? Is it process? Is it like, what do you do?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, how do you do that? Um, so we're in the middle of working on that right this year. It's a big topic of our professional development program this year for our faculty. And tomorrow, in fact, my associate dean and I will be leading um, a discussion on academic integrity. The faculty, we've provided them with a copy of a recent book called "The Opposite of Cheating." I don't know if you're familiar with it. Trisha Bertram-Gallant.
Yep, she's been on the podcast. Yeah, we
David
know
Redinger.
her.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me. And so we're using that as a basis for some of our discussion. But we've tried some technological approaches. So we've used an online proctoring system
Sure.
that has primarily been used by our science areas and math, and that has some benefits. It's an expensive product to employ for the college,
Yeah.
and there's a continual question of is the return on investment good enough to justify this expense, and does it create an expectation among faculty that if I have this proctoring software, in use, does that mean I should be able to expect zero cheating in my classes? Because that's probably not realistic. And
Absolutely unrealistic, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so then I think that creates a false expectation there then
Yeah.
for
Right.
faculty. We have faculty who make use of plagiarism and AI detection software tools that are built into our learning management system.
Hmm.
And again, it's a tool. It provides a starting point, but I've had frequent discussions with faculty who say, the software said it's 70% AI, 70% chance that this is an AI paper, and so I have to talk to faculty and say, well, okay, you know, this provides you with a data point to start having a conversation with the student. But this in itself is really hard. If the student were to dispute this, it's really hard to have definitive proof that this paper was cheated. It's not. When I first started teaching, I was teaching English composition at a different community college here in Illinois.
Yeah.
And I received a paper from a student that was just, I knew it was plagiarized because I'd seen the student's writing. I just knew it. I walked down the hallway into the library, walked to the first row of encyclopedias, found, just picked an encyclopedia, the one that kind of right in the middle of the shelf, found the right volume, pulled it out, opened it up, and there it was, word for word. The student hadn't even tried, hadn't even like gone around the shelf. Um, and so that was, and I could show the student, that here it is, here's what you turned in. There's no difference. With the AI detection, it's much harder to have that sort of definitive, you know, here's the evidence that you plagiarized this paper. And so it has to become much more of a conversation with the student about what does this appear to be to me? Why? What are my concerns about that? And now you tell me, um, how did you approach this paper? What steps did you take to write it? And carry on the conversation that way. But it's difficult. I feel like I've wandered a little bit away from your initial question there, but
Oh, yeah, no, but I follow up because it's very interesting what you say. And I think this is what we also had in other discussions talking about academic integrity, that there is a technological way to tackle it, or maybe to trigger such kind of conversation, also to set the foundation, maybe also psychologically, to set up some kind of boundaries that students are aware of so that they do not feel like cheating. And this is more of a field of scientific, maybe projects that you really deep dive a little bit and collect those data and figure out, is the psychological border already enough? More or less just set up the fence and people will not like run it over.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a part of it. What I just took away from another discussion is the concept of a academic integrity tracker, which is not a tool. It sounds like a tool, but this is more of a process that if faculty observes cheating behavior, they can just file an incident, more or less, like a cheating incident, and just send it
Mhm.
to a central like office, whatever. You collect those, and then in a certain cadence, you will just look into it and figure out, is there like a pattern? And some
Yeah.
students show up more often than others. I think that sounded to me like a very, very valid approach if you have those few people, and I think it's really few people that try to cheat or go against academic dishonesty. And then if you figure out, okay, there are people, then talk to them, right? Figure out what was the motivation, what was the trigger for you to cheat on that, right? I think
Yeah.
part in it. So that's also what we discussed just lately.
Yeah, and that's a system we have in place as well. We have a system for online reporting. Faculty can indicate, what was the incident, what was the describe what happened, describe what were the consequences they provided to the student, if any, and then that's tracked by our student services office, our dean of student development, and she then can begin to see if there are patterns, and if there are repeat offenders, and then initiate those kinds of conversations, because that's something that any individual faculty member wouldn't necessarily know. I have one student in one class. I don't know what has happened before or what may come after.
Yeah, right. Sounds like, and like in general, do you think there is not specifically talking about like proctoring or plagiarism, but do you think there is other ways to make like your curricula and like your courses more or less like a little bit more immune to cheating? Whatever it is, can be like enlight
Yeah,
more more intrinsic motivation in your students, or
yeah,
whereas do you think of a concept or an idea that can help with that?
I do. I do. I think that's got to be a piece of it, because you can't simply continue to teach the same way and assume that there's going to be some sort of technological tool that's going to screen out all possible student cheating. What we want to try to encourage our faculty to do is to think about their courses. Are there elements of a course that might actually incentivize students to look for shortcuts? Can for example, can assignments be built so that they are completed in small steps that scaffold together, so that at each step, the work the student's being asked to do is more low stakes, which is less likely to incentivize a student to cheat. But then as they go, then they're putting pieces together of a larger project, larger assignment that then is more, it's a more valid assessment of their learning. I think that's uh, the issue is we want to be able to validly, accurately assess, are the students learning what we want them to learn?
Yeah.
Do we have assignments that aren't really measuring that? If so, why do we include them? And by removing those kinds of assignments, if they're not effectively measuring what it is we want students to learn, that's one less thing that students might be tempted to cheat on. And if students feel like they're being asked to do busy work that they don't clearly see the learning value in it, I think that also incentivizes them to say, I'm just going to take a shortcut on this because it doesn't really matter anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. I think the other piece of it is you have to be, as a faculty member, you have to be very explicit in talking with students about it, about
Yeah.
what is academic integrity? What does it mean in this field, in this discipline, in this course, in this classroom? Why does it matter? And what is your experience with it? I think it's useful to, particularly thinking about how students use AI,
Yeah.
um, rather than simply saying, don't use it, don't talk about it, don't touch it, don't do anything with it. Ask them, so what, how have you used it? What do you feel comfortable about using it? What makes you uncomfortable about it? How would you feel if I, as your instructor, used AI to grade your papers? If I didn't look at them, I just ran them through AI and how would you feel about that? Would that make you uncomfortable? How about if I used AI to generate all my lectures? How would you feel about that? Would you feel like you were getting your money's worth? How would you feel if I didn't come to class, but instead used an AI avatar on the screen to read the lectures to you? Would you feel like you were getting your money's worth? And try to turn the table a little bit to get students thinking about what are the appropriate uses of this tool, because there are appropriate uses, and what are the ways in which this should make me feel uncomfortable? Can we help students internalize that sense of integrity of work, that allows them to say, you know what, this is not comfortable. This isn't going to be the right thing to do here.
Yeah, sounds good to me. So it seems like there should be a framework and some kind of guidance on how to talk to students, take them in, maybe even give them guidance and advice on how to utilize AI to learn, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is the
Yeah.
better way around. So if you just utilize it in a way, use it, what you said, like you can use an avatar either to read the lecture, which is maybe not the right approach, but maybe you can use an avatar to offer some kind of service outside the office hours or outside the campus hours, like on weekends, whatever. And we do have nice experience with some projects around that, where you don't have 24/7 availability, or you have to manage different time zones and stuff like that. So yeah, I think if you encourage people use it and maintain AI for their day-to-day work, and just talk about it very confidently in a way. So it's not banned at all, but please let me know what you did and what your thought process has been, and how you came to that conclusion. Can you explain it to me? It's of course a little bit more effort, right? So I think that
Yeah.
is what community colleges, specifically with large enrollments, fear a lot, so that
Right.
they cannot
And our
hire enough
faculty are
faculty.
our faculty are teaching lots of classes, lots of students, and so it it can feel a little overwhelming at times.
Mhm.
But it is interesting to see how faculty are kind of experimenting with it. So, for example, we have one of our English faculty members is using a tool, um, that is, it's AI, but it's AI with a very specific agentic purpose. It's called My Essay Feedback, and the instructor can for each essay assignment, each draft that students are writing, can give the AI very clear parameters about, I want you to provide the student with feedback on these elements. And then students can, as they're writing a draft, they can run their draft through this AI tool and get feedback from the AI,
Hmm.
which then they can do multiple times. That gives them a whole lot more feedback to work with as they revise and draft than they would ever be able to get from one instructor, who has 100 writing students this semester.
Right.
So it's an interesting use. And I think it shows students that there is an effective, useful, appropriate, honest way to use a tool like this that isn't causing them, it's not doing the work for them. It's not telling them, it's not revising their paper for them. It's telling them, here are some gaps, here's some things you're missing, here's what you need to work on in this. Here's some examples of, problems that I have seen in your draft. And then the student can go back and work on that themselves.
Nice. Yeah. So you can basically see if you're in or outside the scope,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like setting those boundaries. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Maybe also later on for some kind of grading purposes, you can then use the same methodology to just figure out quickly if it's way inside or outside the scope, and then you can also like speed up that process to free up time. Maybe I think that's what we're talking about, right? So utilize AI in a way that you can free up time to focus on the students where they need help 101, or like the human in the loop approach.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are appropriate kinds of cognitive offloading where you say, this is not, you know, this use of my energy and time and brain power is better spent on something more complex, and I'm going to let this tool do this for me. And then there are the more inappropriate times. Like I would be concerned if a faculty member told me, yeah, all my students' assignments are just graded by AI. That
Yeah.
would concern me. I'd say, well, how's it? What? Tell me more about that, and why might
Yeah.
students see this as a problem?
Yeah, I think not only students, but maybe your whole institution would see a problem in that.
Yeah.
That's true. But maybe one last question. So, what is like so do you have innovative initiatives going on at the moment? And if though, which are those? Like, which are the innovative like drivers, or like the direction you're heading towards?
Yeah. Yeah. I mentioned that we are doing a lot of professional development around academic integrity this year. And that's partly because of how many faculty have identified that as a challenge for
Mhm.
them. And so that's one initiative that we're approaching. Um, we have quite a few online classes. We had some online classes prior to the pandemic, but since the pandemic, we have, we're a little bit under about 50% online, just sort of
Oh
when you
wow.
look at it across the whole college. Now, there's some areas where that's much higher and some areas where it's much lower. But um, in the liberal arts and sciences areas, we try to ensure that we offer enough online sections that if a student needed to complete their associate degree entirely online, they could. But the challenge for that then is that academic integrity in an online setting is just
Yeah.
that much more challenging. And
Yes.
and so we are having a lot of conversations, particularly with the math department, because math is uniquely, I don't know if vulnerable is the right word, but
Yeah. Yeah.
uniquely vulnerable to academic dishonesty. And so trying to figure out with them, this online proctoring tool, many of them use, some of them like it, some of them are disappointed in it. What other ways can we provide security for their exams
Hmm.
that will allow them to feel confident in the results they're seeing from their students? And that's a challenge because some of them would like to say, well, I just want all my students to take their exams on campus. I want them to all come to campus to take their exams. I will proctor them, which, first of all, that's no guarantee that there won't be cheating, but
Absolutely not. No.
but setting that
It's just a
aside,
different kind of cheating.
exactly. Setting that aside, we can't ask online students who are taking those online classes precisely because they cannot easily come to campus to come to campus to take their exams. So then what are the alternatives? And we don't have, I don't know what the answer is going to be, but we're working on it.
All right. Yeah, so if you want, I can just offer you a little bit of advice from my point of view. So I work in proctoring since 2018, and I've been on the global market talking about proctoring. And I think there is some good in proctoring, and of course, it's not 100% guarantee that cheating will stop. But there is different concepts like that you can employ to secure specifically those online take-home exams, like in your home environment or at the workplace, wherever it takes place. So, and yeah, whatever. So if you have a discussion about that and you like to include me, so I'm happy to join in.
Yeah, no, I'm looking for any sources of input and wisdom on this that I can find. So absolutely, yeah.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Yeah, I want to jump in because I'm going to go back to something you said, Judd, and I was like, got really animated. So I love when you were talking about the faculty asking the students. I'm going to use AI. How do you feel about? I want to. I can. I would love to see a survey, right? All students saying, yeah, how do you feel if your faculty is, first of all, an avatar? It's like, it's just them asking, how do you feel about that? How do you feel the real in-person faculty is doing everything with AI, creating the curriculum, all the questions and everything? Or how do you, the students, and are you getting your money's worth? You feel, I love that. I was like, yes, that was so awesome, John. Tap into that a little bit more. That's great.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. So I have a couple of kids in college, and they were in the car with me the other day, and they are just viscerally opposed to the use of AI, partly for environmental reasons. They feel like just the environmental impact of AI has not really been taken seriously. But then I sat in on one of our education classes recently, which is for students who are planning to move on and become teachers themselves, K through 12, primary, high school level teachers. And these are students who are by and large traditional age, so 18, 19, 20 years old. It was fascinating. They were talking about the use of technology, use of AI, use of flipped classrooms for themselves when they become teachers. And they all thought it was a bad idea. They didn't like it. They wanted nothing to do with it. They sounded to me, I mean, this isn't fair. They sounded to me like a bunch of 60-year-olds, complaining about all these newfangled things, that these kids today, they don't even know how to write cursive. As thinking about themselves in the role of teacher in their future, they were thinking pretty critically about what am I going to allow myself to use in terms of technological resources, AI, whatever, and what am I going to want my students to be able to use? And it was interesting because part of the conversation was, well, I mean, students have to be digitally literate, and more and more, your work in the world is going to require you to be familiar with AI at the very least.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so it was really interesting. I think the more that idea of thinking about this not from the perspective of I'm a student, I just got to get through this class with a B, and I just got to earn enough points for that, and whatever it takes, I'm going to do to earn those points with the least amount of effort. To switch from that kind of a mindset to the mindset of, if I were teaching this, if I wanted somebody to learn something, how would I approach the idea of academic integrity or use of AI, and how would I feel about that? I think that changes the script just enough that it helps people reflect a little bit more realistically on academic integrity.
Yeah, no, I love that. And let's get to the last question, which I'm very curious to hear your response. What do you see as the future of academic integrity? But higher ed, academic integrity, all that. What do you think is going to go on, Jed?
Oh, wow. I wish my crystal ball worked a little better. I think that it's kind of a cliche to say that the response to AI, for example, in terms of academic integrity, is just another version of the same response that Wikipedia got or the World Wide Web got. I think that's a little bit of a cliche because I think AI is exponentially different than those things. But I do think that that AI is going to be integrated into higher education in a variety of ways. It's certainly already is on the sort of the staff side of higher ed. I know that our student services office uses it. I know that all the various administrative assistants make use of AI. They are using AI to take notes in meetings. All of those kinds of things. It's already being integrated there. So it will be integrated. How is that going to change the learning experience for students? I hope that what it could do, I don't know if this is what's going to happen, but I hope that what it could do is to create more openings for the kind of really valuable person-to-person conversations and discussions that where I think learning really takes place. When I think back to my own educational experience, I read a lot of books and stuff, but I didn't really start to understand it until I was in a position to actually have to talk about it with other people. And that's where the pieces start to come together. That's where the learning, the hard work of learning happens. And especially when we ask students to explain something to us as instructors, because that's where you can really begin to tell, does this person understand it? Have they put the pieces together in a way that lets me know that they're learning? So, I don't know. I can dream about what it would be like to sort of recreate higher education from the ground up. I don't know that that's entirely possible, but I do hope that there will be that AI can be integrated in a way that it allows for more of those genuine, authentic kinds of learning conversations to happen.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. And early on we were talking about cheating a lot. It just reminds me of my freshman year, and I love that you tell the story when you're hanging out with your friends and who cheated. We all did. Everybody cheats, man. Come on. I got busted my freshman year, and I'll never forget this. Never ever in my life. The professor said to me, Elvin, when you cheat, you're cheating yourself. Oh, that one got me. I was like, okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So
I remember an experience with a faculty member who, I had waited too long to write a paper and ended up just copying some stuff from some other sources. And I remember his response to me was one of genuine disappointment. He was like, I was really looking forward to seeing what you would say about this. And I was just disappointed to see that you didn't take the time to think carefully about it. And that, oh my gosh, that got me in the heart. And I was like, well, I'm not going to let this man down again. I'm going to. So that was the thing that made me realize, boy, I feel terrible for this. Why am I doing this way?
He got you good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All
but
right.
it was also because he had taken the time previously to build the kind of relationship with me where I valued his opinion. And so that's one of the overlooked things is your students respond to you based on how you build that relationship with them from the very start of the class. And if you have that kind of relationship with them where they have the sense that, wow, he or she, they really care about what I'm learning and how well I'm learning it and what I think and my opinions and my experiences and my struggles, I think that is an important component of it. Because if they think, well, he doesn't care, so why should I care? Then you've lost the battle before it even starts.
Beautifully said. Well done. Yeah, that's awesome. So this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. Let me first outro my co-host from Germany, Thomas Fatch, CEO at Integrity for Education. Tommy, thank you as always for being here.
Thank you again, Elvin. Thank you, Jot, for this very nice conversation. It was a deep conversation about something else than technology. Talking about academic integrity has always a lot to do with technology. This time we really looked at it from a different angle and perspective. I liked it a lot. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. And let me outro him. He's your guest today, ladies and gentlemen. He's Judson Curry. He is the Dean of Liberal Arts and Sciences at Kishwaukee College. Judd, thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, thanks. This was a great experience. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for involving me.
Absolutely. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just ed up. Thanks for listening to this uninterrupted conversation as part of our Academic Integrity series brought to you by Integrity for Education. Integrity for Education supports your institution by unlocking the full potential of digitalization through the right mix of software solutions, strategic consulting, and sustainable implementation of state-of-the-art technologies. Learn more at integrityforeducation.de. That's integrity, the number 4, education.de.